And it wasn't until my first Spartan race that it really unlocked a growth towards recovery for me, because, for the first time in my life, I was correlating my body and my experience with something bigger.
Welcome back to the Man of Mastery podcast, where, as a friend and coach of mine would like to say, we are here to learn, share, and grow. This is episode 56, In Pursuit of My Best Self, starring top elite Spartan and obstacle course racing athlete Rachel Waters. It's a fun conversation, really informative, not only from an athletic perspective to hear about how Rachel particularly trains and has trained during COVID, strengths and weaknesses, and hearing from a top athlete who excels in all distances of OCR race sport, from the shortest 5K to 31 mile and to 24-hour distances. But on top of that, and the real story here is all of the things that Rachel has overcome in her life, and how OCR in particular was the catalyst that transformed her life, that saved her life in a way. And the really cool thing is to hear about how she, as an elite athlete, really takes so much pleasure in being out there on the course with the rest of us, the recreational athletes, the people who just got ripped off the couch, the person who's struggling to climb up the rope, the people who are still going through that first stage of overcoming fear and their own transformation. So Rachel's real mission here is, of course, in pursuit of her own best self, but by extension, she's here to inspire others, help others, and she's just a very open person on that mission. So great mission, great story. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Episode 56 with Rachel Waters. Hey, welcome, Rachel. Today I've got Rachel Waters. She is a obstacle course racing champion, a blogger. And when I say champion, multiple podiums. You run in the pro and elite classes, 5th in the women's pro category this last year, 2019, at the 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder. So very accomplished athlete that I'm looking forward to learning about and hearing about, Rachel. But there's so much more of a story behind that of growth and ways that you're touching other people in the world now and helping. So welcome. Excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So, let's start with, people love to talk about success stories. Oftentimes we don't take the time to dig into the process behind the success, but let's start with where you're at now. And you've been at OCR, in particular. Spartan's kind of my thing in that. So maybe if we speak to what I know in kind of the Spartan realm. So you've been doing it for about 5 years, but at a pretty elite level, it sounds like.
Yeah, I started, my first race was March of 2015. I ran an open wave, and that was the only open wave of my life. And I pretty soon thereafter took off, Spartan, Savage, Tough Mudder, Green Beret, terrain race, Conquer the Gauntlet, all of the championship races, just pretty much anything with an obstacle. I've probably done it.
Are you mostly doing the individual stuff, or do you do any of the team competitions or team endurance?
I appreciate the team, but I just like to do it by myself, really. So if I can, I'm trying to do it alone, because it's really so personal for me. But the team can be great, but I like to put my expectations on myself when I'm out there.
Awesome. Do you find that you so one open wave and then bam, you're right into age group or even better? Do you find that you gravitate to, or that you're more competitive in a certain distance, longer or shorter or mid-distance races?
I enjoy the longer distances better. Anything I say 15 miles or more. But interestingly enough, if we look at Spartan, for example, I can podium in a sprint, which is going to be a 3-mile race, and I can podium in their ultra, which is a 30-mile race. So I guess I'm sort of the jack of all trades, master of none there, but I actually enjoy the ultra distance, which would be a 50K obstacle race. That's my favorite, if I had to pick.
So right now it's my favorite too, although I've only done one of them, but I'm hooked. So I did my first one last year in Tahoe in some terrible weather, which was awesome.
I
But
saw. I was not there that year, but I saw the snow.
yeah, snow and cold and rain and thunder and lightning. And we got
Congratulations for doing that one. You picked a doozy for sure. Congrats. You must be very proud. Congratulations.
well, thank you. Finishing was my goal, and I met that goal, and I made the cutoffs. That was open category. So this year is my first age group competition. Of course, this year is a little weird so far. We're still in the middle of COVID race lockdown at the moment. But yeah, planning to do hopefully maybe 4 or 5 ultras this year and continue with, kind of, I call them my participation medals, right? Going out there and just doing trifectas and having fun. And we love to travel as a family and do it. My son is 12. So he's running kids competitive, and he is competitive. So he's a regular podium guy. And so we'll take him to the Kids World Championship, hopefully again this year.
That's great. Yeah. Hope to see you. I'll see you at something this year.
Yeah,
Plan
for
as soon as
sure.
I'm back, I'll be out. I'll be back out.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully we'll do Hawaii. Tahoe is on the plans. Greece is still on the plan currently. Have you been over there to do Sparta?
I have not, and I do want to go to Hawaii as well. But this year's been a little strange, and I'm hesitant to make a lot of travel plans. But I still have some stuff on the calendar that I'm hoping is going to materialize.
Awesome. Well, it's cool to hear about being competitive kind of in every race distance. I know, so I live in San Diego. Kevin Gelati is a pro or elite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's been running age group this year. But the guy's a machine. Like, he trains like nobody else. And, to the guys that run at that level, for me, getting in an age group category with them, they're running such a pace, especially through a short race, like a 5K, a sprint distance, that it's like you got to run a clean race and run at a ridiculous pace. And I think as the sport grows, it's kind of cool that it's becoming, at least, I kind of pay attention to the men's category, more and more competitive athletes in there. So it's a tougher field every year, it seems like.
Oh, it's definitely growing in the years since 2015. I mean, I've watched it just explode, and new athletes hitting the scene, and I just the skill set of athletes has dramatically increased, and also just the pool of athletes that are showing up. I mean, there's a lot of really terrific OCR athletes, and I know I'm biased, but I think that obstacle racing builds like the optimal athlete of any sport, because you have running and then strength. So, you think of CrossFit with running, I guess, but I just think that the level and caliber of athletes that are showing up, it's really incredible what people are capable of.
Yeah, it sure is. It's such a cool, functional, full body sort of health and fitness, and challenging in so many ways. And not only, yeah, are incredible athletes showing up, excuse me, as the field grows, but training has really evolved and specialized to suit the obstacles and the sport. So I want to talk a little bit about 2015. That's when I started as well, and your backstory. But before we jump into that, just on training, what does your training typically look like, and what does it look like through these COVID months? How's that differed?
I love training. I love working out. I enjoy the process. I love racing. Being on course is my favorite, most happy place that I find myself in my entire life. But I do a lot of different stuff. So I would say running is probably about 60% of that, mostly outdoor trail. If I have to, treadmill for things like intervals, but probably about 60% running, 10% swimming, I would say 10% cycling, and then 20% sort of CrossFit types of workouts. I don't do actual CrossFit, so I don't want to trademark that name, but really just muscle confusion, different body workouts with, total body movements, functional movements. I don't do a lot of heavy weightlifting, but I really enjoy that functional movement. And then I also do some yoga too. So just really kind of everything, because I love it all. But running really is the core foundation of the sport, but strength too.
That's amazing. I think that mindset of really embracing and loving the process, the training process, as much as it is fun to show up on race days, it's all the days before that really make the difference. And that's really what.
Yeah, it's like the cheat meal. The race is like what you get to enjoy from the work that you put in. So, it's a lot more fun when you can actually do things. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think people have a misconception too about running an elite race when they think that, I had some easier race in them. And it's like, well, no, we did the same course. I'm hurting just as bad as you were hurting. Maybe I was just running faster, or I did it faster, but it's never easy, and it never feels easy. And that's sort of why you work towards it, because it's not going to ever feel good. It's not ever going to feel easy, but you do get to watch your times go down, and you get to achieve things you couldn't do before. So I just love the process.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. Moving from open to running age group this year. So I got a few races in. We had Chino. We had what was February was Phoenix, and then we were headed to San Luis Obispo when everything shut down for COVID. So I was planning to go do the ultra there and then the super on Sunday. But so I got a few races in this year. Some I guess those were supers and sprints in the age group for my first time. And of course I expected the athletes that were there. I thought I did, but part of what I found to be a little bit easier than open is, especially if you're running later in the day in open, you get crowds on the obstacles or on a single track. And if it's muddy, you get, like a really muddy rope or a really muddy slip wall. So in some cases, it's easier to go out earlier in the day and have, the course as it was set up. But then, man, it just amazed me how fast the guys that got in the corral for the age group were. And I'm turning 49 this year, I think. So the 45 to 49 or 45 to 50, whatever that is, man, there are guys that, they're still running 5-something-minute miles, just cranking it out. So I got my easier obstacles, if you will. Not full of mud, but the competition is a whole nother level.
Yeah, it is. And, you get, so the other thing is you can never judge a book by its cover, because sometimes I'll stand at a start line of elite race and I look around at other women and I get intimidated, and they're wearing this really amazing gear, and I'm in my, busted shorts and Walmart sports bra, like, but then when you get out there, it's not always what it seems. So you have to remember just to kind of run your own race. And, one comment I will say, I guess if depending on which coast you're on, running in the elite waves for women, we're at 7:45 for Spartan. And it is nice because I would be barreling over people if I had lines. And I do end up catching men that, started ahead of us. But in Georgia, it is cold in the morning. We always have October races. So, us elites are running in the 30 degrees, and then the open, the sun comes out, so it's 60. So not all early start times are created equal, but you do sometimes get that benefit of a little bit less trashed of a course. But I've seen it on the ultras firsthand, that second loop is usually a mess.
Yeah. You know what? So last year was our first time going to Hawaii, and it's August. So being that you're from Atlanta, you might be used to the humidity, whereas others like Southern California, not so much. I did the trifecta weekend. So one day was a beast, and it was the same day they ran the ultra beast. And there's part of the course where you're on a mountain, basically in a rainforest on a single track. And there was some serious health problems out there with the heat and the just the humidity. So one gentleman had some kind of a heart episode or something, and 4 people plus a couple docs had to carry him out down to where they could get to a fire road to get help and get him trucked out of there. But in the meantime, the race stopped. So we're stuck. You couldn't go back, you couldn't go sideways, you couldn't go forward. And ultra runners are trying to come through and finish their second lap or not get cut off for time. So that can get tough on that second lap.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, the second loop on an ultra is a really special experience because, when I'm out in an elite wave, you're with a different group of people. But on that second lap for an ultra, you're actually running, interspersed with folks that are running their open beast waves. And I just absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite parts of running an ultra because, it's so easy to get wrapped up in an elite wave and to, see those racers and, people that just can wake up and do it. But, when you're out there in a beast, you're seeing the average regular Spartans, which really represent what Spartan race is. You see people with, missing limbs and overweight and lifestyle transformations, and somebody that this may be their first Spartan race and they didn't know what they signed up for, and they're out there. So I actually love that part because I get to be with the mass populations of Spartans as opposed to being segmented in an elite way where everybody is easy and we're all, sprinting through the finish line and we can do the obstacles. But being able to watch somebody that's in tears because they are so scared of something, and then watching all of the other racers help carry them over, coach them through it, talk them through it, and watching that person's achievement, that's really special. So I love that part of the ultra, getting to be out, and people really cheer for you, and it's really a good feeling because they're blown away when you're coming in on your second loop and they're out there on their first, and they're looking at me like, what? You're doing this twice. But I love that part of the ultra. I love being out with just Spartans and getting outside of that bubble of elite and age group racers and back into the everyday people who are literally changing their life that day. So I always think that's a really special part of it.
And that is the really special thing about the nature of this sport, OCR and Spartan specifically. All those obstacles out there, they really are sort of a metaphor for life. Going out and doing hard things and being scared but working through it, or failing and figuring out what's next, or helping other people, or asking if somebody's okay, and seeing the amazing people that are challenged in different ways. Going through it. So that's kind of, that's what hooked me. So I got talked into my first one. I had no idea what I was getting into. 2015.
It happens to most of us.
Right?
We get talked to it.
It's like the evil trick of some friend that, they're over at your house and they go, hey, do you want to do this thing? It's in 2 weeks. Yeah, sure. Sounds cool. And I had been playing soccer 4 days a week. So I go like, I'm probably, it's a run heavy event. I'll probably be fine. And it crushed me. Like it crushed me, and not just physically, like it was so this was in Vail Lake, Temecula, California. It's hot, dry, hilly, and dusty. And the second to last obstacle was rope climb before fire jump, right? And
back started in chin high water.
I think it did back then. Yeah, it had some water underneath, and I had never tried a rope climb ever before. So I'm like, I know there's some technique to it. Couldn't get it. And I was just exhausted. And so I'm doing my last set of 30 burpees there. And I remember all my friends had already finished. And they're already like, they could see me. They're in the corral or whatever, the finishers area. And they're already drinking a beer. And they're like, come on, you don't have to finish the 30. Just do, you're good. You're good. Just come on. I'm like, no, I'm doing my 30. Like, I'm going to finish out what I signed up for. And, went home to kind of, lick my wounds. And it was like, well, is that going to be my first and last? Or, I chose the path of this was something really hard for me. And so I want to go back and try it again and get better at it. So did one more in 2016 and my first trifecta in 2017, which was emotional. And then, since then, especially as my son has grown into it, obviously, like, I don't know, I've got medals on all the walls here. Just keep racking them up because it's so much fun. And that's the fun of it, is getting sort of hooked on the community and how it makes you grow as an individual and how you see other people grow into their lives around it.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with my first. I didn't know how to climb a rope. I was trying to muscle it with my hands. I was covered in scrapes and cuts and bruises. I was in so much pain. But it was an empowering thing for me because, prior to that, I had gotten into running. Interestingly enough, I randomly walked onto the track team in high school, and I was always an outdoorsy kid, but I didn't play organized sports. I didn't grow up in a sports family. I was a tomboy. I liked to play, but some friends and I walked onto the track team, and it was one of the only sports you could join without getting kicked off. It was like a free for all. Anybody can be on the track team, and if you're bad, you just get to go to practice and you run in the last wave of the races at the meets, but there was a space for everybody. So I remember getting my butt kicked that first day of practice. I couldn't even run, 100 meters. And I had a long way to go and I really wasn't even good at it. But I stuck with it and joined cross country and started running. But, I never really felt confident in it. I did it more, for exercise. I had a background I developed in eating disorder as a teenager, from trauma, from some stuff that I went through. I had underdeveloped coping skills. So that was sort of, I guess, the addiction I gravitated to. I like to think that there would have been some medicinal thing that I would have picked. I would have either been an alcoholic, a drug addict, something, and that's just the poison that I picked. So my journey into fitness really started almost in an unhealthy way, and it progressed that way for many years. And I kept my unhealthy addiction and coping skill. My mom was diagnosed with a terminal illness when I was 19, so that sort of I clung to that to cope there. And it wasn't until my first Spartan race that it really unlocked a growth towards recovery for me, because, for the first time in my life, I was correlating my body and my experience with something bigger than, body dysmorphia and disordered eating and, all of that whole psychological iceberg that's under the surface. And I won't even go into all of that, but, similar to your experience, obstacle course racing just sort of unlocked something and it broke me. It was so hard, but it also was really empowering and healing, because I love the fact that you said an obstacle race is like a metaphor for life, because I agree with that. I mean, from the outside looking in, it looks like you're climbing a wall, you're, throwing a spear, you're doing a physical task, but each of us out there is actually head to head facing whatever demon it is that was waiting for us out there. Whether you're going through an addiction recovery or leaving an abusive relationship, a divorce, you lost your job, loss of a parent, whatever that demon is that you're carrying, it's kind of waiting for you out there. When you get tired, when your mind fatigues, when you want to give up, when, that wall looks really impossible in front of you, it is the wall you're facing, but it's actually really that negative self-talk that's, either a habit or a pattern, or I like to call it kind of like a ghost of what you've been carrying. And so it was very transformative for me in that way. And it's funny that you just explained your rope story, because I was like, that broke me too, but it changed me, because for the first time I was empowered, and, I thought to myself, wow, I'm capable of doing something. And even if I can't do it, I'm capable of being better. And, that kind of spun onward, and here I am, 5 years later, still crazy and, jumping in mud for fun.
Cranking along. Yeah, I do. For somebody who hasn't experienced it, Spartan's become such a big global brand in itself. And of course it's purchased Tough Mudder now. And so there's some of that going on, but you say to somebody, oh, we're traveling somewhere to do this race, or in my son's case, he also plays competitive level club soccer. And sometimes we have to miss a soccer game or a tournament because he's in a competitive Spartan race somewhere. And you say Spartan and people go, oh, is that like that mud run? And it's like, yeah, to the outside looking in.
You jump over fire, right? I'm like, that's the easiest thing we do, actually.
Right. But even that, it's like you go out and you like we've been to Laughlin, Nevada a couple of years, and they put together the team para athlete event, right? And so you see all different kinds of people with different disabilities going out there as a team. Just amazing. Like I remember 2 years ago we stopped and watched a team that had two of the four guys were in wheelchairs, and one of the guys in wheelchairs was also blind. And so they get to the A-frame cargo net, and the blind guy, his buddies get him off the chair and leaning back onto the cargo net, and they're helping him, put his legs up loop by loop and then push himself up with his arms, and he's blind, right? So completely trusting in his team. Like people are, I'm going to cry again now, like in tears, clapping, everything else stopped in the festival area to watch this team. So for some of those athletes, the fire jump is a super intimidating thing. There's a great video of, I can't remember the athlete's name, but he's got, I don't know if he's lost both legs or one leg, and he's got sort of that, those Blade Runner style, kind of the big sled foot, if you will, on the prosthetic leg. And just the sort of the fear of that hooking on one of the logs on fire. And in fact it did, but he just, blasts through and tumbles through the other side, like, victorious over the fire jump. So everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, right?
Oh yeah, it's extremely humbling. I think a lot of people also get intimidated by it, because I spend my life trying to recruit people to do obstacles at the grocery store, anywhere I go. I'm trying to talk somebody into, you should sign up for a Spartan race, it'll change your life. And I think people get intimidated that, you have to be some super elite Olympic level athlete, but it's not about that. It's about camaraderie. It's about, what you put into it and what you get out of it. And there's a lot of people that can't do all the obstacles, and that doesn't matter. It's showing up. For some people, standing at the start line is life-changing for them, or attempting something, even just trying it. So it's just incredible to watch what the sport does for people, and the community is just incredible. I mean, you talk about a tightly like woven fabric of people. I mean, there's addicts, recovering from addicts, people, veterans that have gone through post-traumatic stress, people that have been broken, cancer survivors. I mean, we all sort of share this sort of communal overcoming of whatever it is that we've personally overcome. And you can stand at the start line or the finish line, and you can see it in people. You can see it in their eyes. You can feel it. And there's just such a respect between athletes. And, it goes from open waves up to elite, and then elite back down to open waves, because we're all out there. We're all doing the same course, and we're all fighting ourselves. And, I think on the mindset level, myself, I'm the toughest obstacle out there is overcoming me to do it. And I think the fact that everybody shares that and we get it really makes the OCR community so strong. I mean, you travel the races, you see it, you see the same people, and you build relationships and friendships, and you watch people help each other. You go into an open wave and nobody criticizes you if you're afraid or you can't do it. They offer to help you.
Right.
So it's really just a beautiful community.
Yeah, it sure is. It's something you were saying there sparked a thought about some ways that it is a unique sport. So we're still in COVID lockdown here, right? So we all, or I'll say we, have been doing a lot of family movie time, a little bit of Netflix binging, if I'm honest. And so for my son, we watched, first time for him, we watched The Legend of Bagger Vance, old movie, which it's actually based on a book by, I think it's Stephen Pressfield, who's written several books about the Spartans and the Battle of Thermopylae. But it's a story about golf, right? And they make the comment in the movie that golf is the only sport where you have the process of enforcing the rules on yourself, being honest as a golfer. Golf ball moves, you have to assess yourself a penalty stroke, you're self-refereeing, self-policing, right? And I get that about golf. But in a way, Spartan is the same, right? So in the open category, you go out and do whatever it is you decide you're going to face and decide that you're going to do or attempt. But I've also seen it, running age group. I expected to go into age group, and you sign a waiver when you sign up for a season pass, and you sign an agreement when you sign up for every race that says, I will follow the rules, and I will do the penalty burpees when I don't. And here's a certain way that you have to do the burpees for them to count. And I've been impressed at the vast majority of people that do it, but I've been sort of traumatized by seeing people that have signed up for this competitive agreement that are skipping burpees or, cheating obstacles, not following the rules. And I guarantee it's not all based on ignorance. So it is also unique in that in a sport where you have there's an integrity component that's up to you to decide to follow.
Oh, absolutely. And, on the elite waves, they do better at policing, and they actually do video cameras, but they can't capture everything. And, their volunteers sometimes are short. One time the ultras are terrible to police, because on your second loop, you're mixed in and nobody's watching. And, I've been down that road of seeing things, and but it's easy to try to let that bother you when you're out there, because it can be discouraging knowing that you're running with integrity and you're doing the right thing. And then, when you're in a podium spot and you're contending for, there's a big difference between third and fourth place. So, when you're in those spots like I've been, and you witness things that you could consider cheating or maybe unethical, it can be extremely discouraging when you're at mile 25 and you feel broken and you're doing what you need to do, and then your competitor isn't. but I just try to take it as another obstacle because I'm like, I've got to focus on me. And I know that, how I cross my finish line matters. And I think that's part of the message of being a Spartan is that you run with integrity. But, unfortunately, it's like anything. You're going to have folks that don't do it. But, I've never been one to run to somebody and try to tattle or even go down that road. I just try to worry about me. But, it is what it is. It's out of my control. And you can go in a downward spiral at mile 25 of 31 if you let that start to slow you down of what somebody else is doing. So
That's an awesome way to look at it. It's just another obstacle, and nobody's perfect, right? Even athletes and referees are going to make mistakes, and that's just, on any given day, it could fall either way. Well,
I
so
try
part
to
of
believe that people are inherently good. I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I would rather approach life thinking that somebody is genuinely a good person and they made a mistake than to live my life like in paranoia thinking people are bad. And also at the end of the day, it's totally up to somebody else what they want to do. And it's also just a race. So I'm not going to lose sleep over somebody skipping burpees.
Yeah, burpees are so soul crushing. It's like that's when it gets the hardest. Like, I remember thinking, like, do I tell this guy next to me that, dude, your feet have to come off the ground and your hands have to go above your ears, or do you just do your own thing and life will take care of itself? So I do remember thinking about that. One of the cool things with you is not only are you killing it as a racer, but you're a blogger and you're also pretty active on social media. So that's another version of getting your writing out there. So I know you love telling your story, even though it seems like in a way you're quite private, but in a way you're really on a mission. I know you say it's in pursuit of your best self. One of the things I pulled off of your blog in particular says, I'll read it. While each of our backgrounds and stories is unique, the common bond that we share on the course is that we have chosen to move forward in spite of our suffering. We do not have to be defined by our history or our mistakes. Instead, we can continually progress towards becoming the best version of ourselves on and off the course, which I think really sort of sums up this sport nicely. But it's also great insight on what you're doing and trying to share your story and some of those struggles that you touched on really, really briefly. So tell me a little bit more about that. What's your vision and where are you headed as a representative of not only the sport, but of you got kind of life's challenges and how we get through those and what's on the other side, and how are you helping people?
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed writing. Grew up just kind of writing poetry to myself in a notebook under my bed. Never had an ambition to do anything really that way, but my grandma actually told me that she follows me on social media and she told me I should write a book. I was like, oh, Grandma, you're just, saying that. But, I've always had a passion for writing, and I think that I've had an articulateness, if that's a word, just made one up, and able to kind of capture some of the darker pieces of what we think and feel in our mindset. And social media has been a great platform for me because in a way I'm very private, but it's also been a way for me to be vulnerable. And so I started a blog because social media posting is great. You can get shorter messages across, but a blog really gives you a chance to break down things into a little bit more detail. And my goal was to, start with a blog because it's kind of hard and scary to think about writing a book. And, I told myself, well, Rachel, it's just like an obstacle race. You do one at a time, and, you do just start where you are with what you have, and, start one blog post. And then as you build your blog posts, you're building material to eventually, maybe make a book. And really, my goal is to, I guess my primary goal with being alive is to hopefully leave the world a little better than I found it, in whatever way that I can in my contribution. But really taking the lessons that I've learned and trying to connect with other people in their growth, because I think people have a lot that they think and they feel, but may not always have a way to articulate and explain it. And it can be really helpful if somebody that they maybe respect through a sport or through a performance, when they open up and say, yeah, I might be, winning this race, I might be able to do this, and I may appear like an outwardly strong person, but, I face these very, very human things too. And I go through these same things that you're going through. And I thought it was really important to share that message, and more specifically in the context of obstacle course racing, because I believe it is such a life-changing and transformative tool that I have seen for myself and just so many people. So really my goal is to continue to make myself vulnerable, because if I can connect with one person and have one person that says, you know what, I struggle with an eating disorder, or I've struggled in my addiction, or lost a parent or whatever, and have felt powerless, have felt that I don't have control, helping give people an outlet and to share my experience with them. So it's small. Do I expect to change the entire world? I mean, it'd be nice, but I'm human. I am so imperfect. I am learning every day. I am failing every day. Just like I'm failing obstacles when I go race, through practice, through wanting to be better, and through intentionally moving forward through my racing, I've gotten better there. So it's just like life. It's working on yourself. And so really just trying to share that message with people that, first of all, it's okay to feel human. It's okay to not always feel strong, but you can use what you have as a tool, and you can use that to better yourself. And you don't have to be stuck or weighed down by who you might have been or what may have happened to you. I have not been through things that a lot of other people have been through that is probably very heartbreaking, but I just hope to connect with people in whatever way I can.
Thank you for leading in that way and sharing so transparently and vulnerably. I know it will help and inspire and touch a lot of people. So you've got, are you just on Instagram? Are you on Facebook, other social media?
I'm on Facebook. I kind of veer towards Instagram just because Facebook to me has become so convoluted with some junk. So, Instagram is really the easiest way to find me. And I have a link to my blog in there as well in my bio. My Instagram is Rachel, RACHEL _fit_girl. So if you're looking for me, that's where you can find me. And I love talking to people. So people can DM me, ask me what's up. I'm happy to give advice about racing, training, give opinions about things. I mean, I really genuinely care about people. And my goal is to, help actually with Joe's message with Spartan is really just get people moving, get people on obstacle course races, and to change their lives, not just for their physical health, but for transforming mindset and mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure we get links to your social media in the show notes for this episode, and also your blog if people want to hit it directly. Your old school WordPress blog. That's how people used to do it, right? Everything was something.wordpress.com.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll upgrade. But again, for me, I've wanted to write, but for me, it's actually been a personal struggle starting that journey. So just getting a blog out there was a big step. So, I'm building momentum and I'm working through it, but yeah. Hey, it's the free one. So that's what I've got.
Yeah.
Now.
It's always one step at a time. In pursuit of my best self.wordpress.com. And thank you for letting people know that they're free to reach out and kind of connect, whether it's on a personal level, maybe they were touched by some of your backstory or something they're going through, or have questions about the physical side of things. Are you, where does this lead to? I mean, the book would be amazing to share as a gift to the world. Are you headed down the path as a sports coach, as a life coach? What do you think that looks like?
I don't know. I've kind of wavered back and forth in that, even dabbled a little with some training, but the reality is that I like to give it away for free. I'm not somebody that wants to make a living off of it. I work in employee benefits, so I've had an income coming in. So I have tried to dabble in coaching, but I'd rather just give people my time. I'll give anybody 20 minutes of my time to talk to them. So, maybe eventually getting a book out there and helping pay for itself in the publishing costs, but I'm not really trying to get rich or make money off of it, but I do like to help people. So I've been hesitant to try to make any sort of career that way because it's just more the gift I kind of want to give to people.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I've taken up way more than my 20 minutes of your time, so I'm gonna let you
That's
run here pretty quick. But I do want to ask. It seems like you approach things with such intentionality. I think a lot about how to construct my day, and in particular, how to start my day with a morning routine that I feel like I've gotten a pretty good one in place, but it also evolves sometimes because of the schedule or demands of a particular day, or just evolving over time. Like I try to, I've got a 25-minute yoga routine that I like to make part of my morning movement, but reaching for a lacrosse ball. So lately, it's just been more about some specific mobility. So that that kind of shifts and changes. But I like to ask people like yourself, what's a morning routine look like for you, or do you have a morning evening routine? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, the structure of changing your life is starting with your day, and in changing a structure and building a habit. I don't have a lot of rigidity around my schedule, but one way that I start every morning is a dog walk. I get my coffee and getting that mile in the morning where, I reflect, I think. I may follow that up with some journaling, some writing, some stretching to start my day. But for me, especially if it's a pre-dawn when it's still dark outside, but that mile walk with my dogs every morning is really where I set the intention of my day. I also enjoy the Headspace app. Um, different supplements. I love cold showers if it's warm enough outside to wake me up. But really, I would say that 1 mile dog walk is just how I start my day off with the right intention.
Yeah, that sounds like a great foundation. Do you, since you mentioned Headspace, do you do any particular breathing exercises, breath training, and do you apply any of that in sport?
I do actually. I've really worked on breathing because it's interesting. It's so basic and we all know this, but we forget. But, breathing is everything. And one of my mantras, I actually will take Sharpie and write things on my hand before a race, just sometimes as a reminder. And just breathe is something that I'm constantly writing because we forget that, the most basic thing you've got to do, your body knows what to do. And if you just breathe, your muscles will work. Your body can keep going, whatever you find yourself into. So breathing has really been something I've worked on intentionally in developing, being more mindful about my breathing. And that's come not only with mind space, but with yoga practice. But when I'm out on course, especially, when you're trudging up a mountain with a sandbag on your back, that is one of my mantras is just breathe because it's amazing how much your breath can change your present moment, whether that's in sports or in an argument or a stressful situation at work in traffic. But it's so basic, but counting those deep breaths has been a significant and very simple way that I've really transformed my ability to cope in the stresses that I face daily.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, it kind of is everything. And it's
Hmm.
amazing how I say quite often, I joke around, but it's not a joke, is like I'm almost 50 and I feel like I'm just learning to breathe, right? Or
Hmm.
learning to breathe properly, something that we all knew coming out of the womb as infants. And somehow
Yeah,
we pick up bad habits or we forget, but there's such power to it.
there is. I mean, as a human being, it's very, very basic. Let's take out all the noise of what we've created in the world around us. I mean, our very most basic function is to breathe. Take everything else out. So when we strip away everything and kind of come back down to that, breathing really is sort of the foundation to how we build everything else out. And it doesn't really matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how much you work on your mindset. If you can't learn to constructively, intentionally, methodically, and calmly breathe your way through life, you're really just sort of missing one of the most basic secrets of it, really.
No doubt about it. Hey, I got one more I'll throw at you if you haven't tried this one,
Oh,
but you obviously love to be outdoors. So this wouldn't work so much with the dog, but in terms of kind of being outdoors, maybe even barefoot, kind of grounded on grass or dirt, and you can kind of layer this in with mindfulness, sort of a walking meditation, breath practice. Have you heard of the fox walk?
I haven't, no.
I'll shoot you a couple good video links I found recently. So the idea is so I've been doing it this month with a team of mine, and we've been building up. And so this weekend we're all each doing a 30-minute fox walk. But what it is imagine a fox or some sort of an animal that's hunting, and so they're just moving super slowly. So we're doing it as basically one step per minute. So you get this experience of just slowing everything down, even just the practice of shifting your weight, figuring out how to shift your weight that slowly and taking one step per minute. And you work on your breathing, and then you kind of soften your senses. And it's amazing. You'll start to tune into different things that maybe you hadn't noticed, whether it's sounds or feeling the sun or the air. And you do it for a little while, depending on where you are. You'll find animals start to come back out or approach you because you're not moving around. And again, kind of a metaphor for life. Oftentimes we're just running with such chaos within ourselves or around us. There's so much to stop and enjoy and realize when you do slow down.
But you learn a lot about yourself moving that slow.
You do. You do. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll shoot you that. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing. I know it's Friday afternoon, so I'm going to let you run. Have an amazing weekend. Are you? This will be outdated by the time we air this, but are you doing any of the Spartan virtual races this weekend?
I am actually. I'm going to do the Beast this weekend.
Okay.
So I'm excited to do that. I'm looking forward to actual racing coming back, but just still enjoying the process, just being ready for it when it comes.
Yeah, it's awesome to see everybody kind of coming together online and adapting and doing whatever we can do. And we're all going to be ready on the other side of this thing. So I hope to see you at one of the race venues later this year. And thank you again for sharing your story and your insight. Sure. And I look forward to what you have to come, hopefully a book and more.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you, Rachel.
Okay, bye.
Okay, good stuff. No, I really appreciate that. Anytime somebody's tearing it up in their pursuit and their endeavor, in this case, the sport of OCR, it's really fun to talk to somebody at the top of their game, but even more so when somebody's got that past trauma and struggle, and in a way, we all have something, right? So the courage to just get it out there, be transparent about it, talk about how something is inspiring their change, and then extending that to help others and be so energetic about wanting to take a mission out into the world, really in service to others, is just so awesome to hear about. So hope you enjoyed that one, episode 56 with Rachel Waters. You can find the show notes for the episode, and that's going to have links to Rachel's blog and to Rachel's Instagram. That's on manofmastery.com/056. manofmastery.com/056. All right, that's it for this episode. As you guys may know from recent announcements, I've shifted to a bi-weekly cadence for a little while, as a few of the things sort of in the strategic realm or opportunities of the Man of Mastery brand have come along. So hoping to balance and further all those. But in the interim, and in terms of always ongoing feedback and openness and loving to hear from everybody, any comments, questions, feedback you want to communicate on, feel free to do so, please. I love to hear it and love to engage on it. Reach out by Facebook, Instagram Messenger, or email, which you can find on the website, again, manofmastery.com. All right, that's it for this episode. Get out there and get after it, and we'll see you next time.